The Hamburg-based group Rainforest Rescue is being sued for protesting against the widespread destruction of rainforests by the Indonesian group Korindo. Since 2001, Korindo is thought to have cleared a total of 57,000 hectares of rainforest in Indonesia. That's an area the size of Chicago or Seoul. The company rejects accusations that it systematically cleared forest and illegally set fires. But not everyone believes that. Together with 10 other environmental organisations, Rainforest Rescue called on German industrial giants Siemens and wind turbine maker Nordex to reconsider their collaboration with Korindo in 2016. Almost 3 years later, the tiny German environmental group was sued for slandering Korindo. Rainforest Rescue's main concern was that the lawsuit was aimed not only at them, but at silencing their Indonesian partners too.
They are constantly being intimidated by Korindo. It's a company that likes to demonstrate its far-reaching influence. They're basically saying, we can drag your little partner in Germany to court. From Indonesia. And you're just small fry. What are you going to do about it?
But alarm bells began ringing in Hamburg. Was this less a case of slander and more to do with intimidation? Often the costs of supplying evidence for their defence leave small NGOs, journalists and bloggers on the brink of financial ruin.
Of course, it's incredibly difficult, especially when you're trying to get witnesses from on the ground. We've experienced a huge amount of fear among those locals who could be considered as witnesses. If the Rainforest Rescue Group weren't backed up by evidence from the big international NGOs such as Greenpeace, who've published reports and aerial shots, including satellite images, then hands down, they'd lose this lawsuit.
Lawyers for the Korindo Group responded to DW's inquiries on the current lawsuit by saying that it is not up to the court and the parties involved to decide on the justification of the claim. In Europe, there's been a general trend towards people being brought to court for publicly raising ecological and social issues. And that trend has been given its own name, SLAPP. That's an acronym for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. Critics say the aim of these lawsuits is pure intimidation. While the plaintiff has little to gain, journalists and campaigners are simply worn down through harassment. In 2017, Maltese journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia was killed. She'd been investigating government corruption. Reporters Without Borders say at the time of her death, she was the subject of 40 SLAPP lawsuits. Environmental activist Karl Bär is also being sued. He'd been campaigning against the use of pesticides in apple plantations in South Tyrol, Italy. Formerly an employee at the Munich Institute for the Environment, today Karl Bär is a member of the German parliament. He's currently facing defamation charges in a Bolzano court. In 2017, Bär launched a campaign against the massive use of toxic pesticides in South Tyrol's apple monoculture. The regional council, as well as 1,400 apple farmers, filed criminal complaints against him.
We initially thought these claims were part of an election campaign stunt. We didn't think we'd hear any more about them. Then actual charges were brought by the state prosecutor and there was a 2-year investigation. But really, it's an abuse of the legal system because obviously it was a political issue being transferred to the legal sphere. Now it's being negotiated in court when it really belongs under public and parliamentary scrutiny.
Karl Bär and the Environment Institute say they have evidence of every single pesticide. It's cost a huge amount of time and money, as well as the costs of travel and translations. Bär is living with a psychological pressure felt by many others facing similar intimidation lawsuits. But he says there are many who have it harder than him.
Other people, such as bloggers who work unpaid in environmental protection or anti-corruption, are often much worse off as far as resources are concerned. They end up mentally and financially worn out by cases like this.
Intimidation lawsuits like this have yet another effect. Anyone with reason to fear being taken to court will often end up staying silent or censoring themselves.
It sends a signal to everyone else. In my case, that was South Tyrol. Basically, they're saying if you stick your neck out, you could end up getting your head knocked off.
The EU Commission and the German government are now trying to stop such SLAPP lawsuits.
It's surprisingly a serious problem on the rise. We have increased numbers, especially of cross-border cases. So you as a journalist can be sued in another member state, so it means you have to hire the lawyers there and to defend yourself, which is costly, which is time demanding. So the problem is on the rise, and we see that it's part of the political and economic pressure on media. Yes, so that's why we decided to design some legislation, but also some non-legislative actions.
Vera Jourova knows it'll be hard for all EU members to agree on what defines a SLAPP lawsuit. Some countries, after all, like to use such legal measures against undesirable critics. So when is something slander? When is it justified criticism?
It's important that companies must still be able to take action if false reports or allegations are made against them. But there are times when this right to legal recourse is abused, as it always has been, and today we're seeing it happen much more often. So we need a legal framework to end such processes quickly, so small organizations don't suffer.
Karl Bär is glad the issue has finally been picked up by policymakers, but he still faces several years before his case comes to an end.